I still get chills down my spine every time I think back to that fateful vacation. It was supposed to be a dream getaway, a week of sun, sand, and relaxation. Little did I know it would turn into the worst nightmare of my life. It all started with a burst of excitement and anticipation as my friends and I landed in the beautiful island of Bali. The palm-fringed beaches, crystal clear waters, and vibrant culture were enough to make anyone forget about their troubles. We were booked into a luxurious resort, complete with private villas and our own infinity pool overlooking the ocean. It was paradise. We spent the first few days lounging by the pool, basking in the warm sun and sipping on colorful cocktails. But as the days went by, strange things started happening. My friends and I would always wake up to find our villa in disarray, with items moved around and our belongings missing. At first, we brushed it off as housekeeping mistakes, but it kept happening. One night, we decided to go out and explore the nightlife in Bali. We stumbled upon a local bar that was buzzing with people, and we joined in on the fun. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and we were having the time of our lives. But as the night went on, I noticed a man staring at me from across the room. He was dressed in all black, with a cold, eerie stare that made me feel uneasy. I quickly brushed it off and continued to enjoy the night. But the next morning, things took a turn for the worst. My friend Sarah woke up screaming, her face covered in scratches and bruises. She claimed to have seen the same man from the bar standing over her while she slept. We were all terrified, but we tried to rationalize it by saying it was just a nightmare. However, that night, the same thing happened to another friend, and then another. We knew something was wrong, and we tried to leave the resort, but every time we tried to book a flight, it would mysteriously get canceled. We were stuck in Bali with no way out and no idea what was happening to us. The resort staff seemed to have no knowledge of any of the incidents, and they brushed it off as us being paranoid. But things took a sinister turn when one of my friends went missing. We searched everywhere, but she was nowhere to be found. We contacted the authorities, but they were no help. They told us that there were no records of her even being on the island, even though she was with us the entire time. We were terrified and knew that we were in serious danger. The following night, we barricaded ourselves in our villa with weapons we had found and waited for something to happen. Sure enough, in the darkest hours of the night, we could hear footsteps outside our door. We were petrified and remained silent, not wanting to alert whoever or whatever was lurking outside. But then we heard a loud banging on the door, and we knew we had to act fast. We managed to escape through the back door and into the forest, with only the clothes on our backs. We ran for what felt like hours until we were sure we were far enough from the resort. Only then did we stop to catch our breath. As we sat by a pond, trying to figure out our next move, we found a local villager who was willing to help us. He explained that the resort we were staying at was built over an ancient burial ground, and the spirits of the dead were not resting peacefully. They were angry and were wreaking havoc on anyone who disturbed them. We were horrified but relieved to finally have an explanation. We followed the kind villager to a nearby temple where a ceremony was being held to appease the spirits. We were told to stay there for the night to ensure our safety. The next morning, we returned to the resort with the villager to collect our belongings. But to our shock, the resort was gone. It had vanished, leaving no trace behind. The only thing remaining was an old, abandoned temple that we were warned never to step foot in. We left the island with our hearts racing and a newfound appreciation for the supernatural. That vacation may have started as a dream getaway, but it turned into a nightmare that we would never forget. To this day, I always think twice before booking a vacation and make sure to research the history of the place I'm staying. You never know what secrets may be lurking in paradise. I never thought my dream vacation would turn into a nightmare. My friends and I had been planning this trip to a remote island in the Caribbean for months. We had heard about its crystal blue waters, white sandy beaches, and luxurious resorts. It was the perfect destination for a relaxing and fun-filled vacation away from the chaos of our busy lives. We arrived at the island and were immediately taken aback by its scenic beauty. It was like a piece of paradise on earth. We checked into our resort, a beautiful bungalow facing the ocean. The room was spacious and had all the amenities we could ask for. It was everything we had hoped for and more. The first few days were filled with sunbathing, swimming, and indulging in all sorts of water sports. We explored the island, went sightseeing, and even tried some local cuisine. It was a dream come true, and we couldn't have been happier. But on the fourth day, things took an unexpected turn. We decided to go scuba diving, something we had all been looking forward to. As we descended into the deep blue waters, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The water seemed eerily calm and quiet, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was watching us. As we swam deeper, we stumbled upon an old abandoned shipwreck. My friends were excited to explore it, but I hesitated. Something about the ship gave me a chilling feeling, like we were not supposed to be there. But I didn't want to be the party pooper, so I followed along. As soon as we entered the ship, we were hit with a strong smell of decay. It was like the ship was hiding some dark secrets. We found some old artifacts and decided to take them back with us as souvenirs. That's when things started to go wrong. On our way back to the surface, my best friend suddenly started to panic. She was frantically pointing towards something behind me. I turned around to see what it was, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at her, she was gone. I panicked and started searching for her, but she was nowhere to be found. I signaled to my other friends to surface, and we all searched for her with our diving gear on. After what felt like an eternity, we found her laying motionless on the ocean floor, her eyes wide open in terror. We quickly brought her to the surface and tried to revive her, but she wouldn't wake up. We called for help, and she was airlifted to a nearby hospital. The doctors couldn't explain what had happened to her. She was in a coma, and they were unable to wake her up. We were all terrified and decided to cut our vacation short and go back home. We were all shaken by what had happened, and we couldn't shake off the feeling that something was not right about that shipwreck. As we packed our bags, we noticed that the artifacts we had taken from the ship had strange writings on them. We didn't pay much attention to them until we got back home. A few days after our return home, strange things started to happen. We would hear noises in our house, see shadows moving, and experience a feeling of being watched. It was like something had followed us back from the island. I couldn't help but think that this was all because of those artifacts we had taken from the ship. Things only got worse when my best friend finally woke up from her coma. She was traumatized and kept muttering about a dark figure she had seen in the ship. She said it had followed her back and was now haunting her. We were all scared, but we didn't know what to do. One night, we received a package in the mail. It was from the island. Inside was a letter written in the same strange language as the artifacts, and a picture of us diving into the ship. The letter warned us to return the artifacts and never speak of what had happened. The sender claimed to be a shaman from the island, and he had put a curse on us for disturbing the ancient artifacts. We were terrified and didn't know what to do. We decided to follow the instructions and return the artifacts to the island. Miraculously, all the strange occurrences stopped, and my best friend made a full recovery. Looking back, I still get goosebumps thinking about that vacation. It was supposed to be a dream come true, but it turned out to be a nightmare. I learned my lesson to never take things that don't belong to me, especially from a place that has a mysterious aura. That vacation will forever be etched in my memory as a vacation horror story. It was supposed to be the perfect vacation, a week of relaxation and adventure in the beautiful mountains of Colorado. My friends and I had been planning this trip for months, counting down the days until we could escape our mundane lives and immerse ourselves in the great outdoors. Little did we know, this trip would turn into a nightmare that would haunt us for the rest of our lives. We arrived at our rented cabin on a sunny afternoon, greeted by the breathtaking views of the mountains. The cabin was cozy and rustic, just as we had hoped. We spent the first couple of days hiking, fishing, and enjoying the fresh mountain air. But on the third day, things took a dark turn. It started with strange noises coming from the woods at night. We brushed it off as just some wild animals and didn't think much of it. But then, we woke up to find our belongings scattered outside the cabin. We thought it was just a prank from one of our friends, but when we checked the security camera footage, we were horrified. The footage showed a figure lurking around our cabin in the dead of night, looking in through the windows and trying to open the door. We were all terrified, but we tried to convince ourselves that it was just some crazy person and that we were safe inside the cabin. But as the night went on, we couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The next morning, we decided to go on a hike to take our minds off the creepy events of the previous night. But as we were walking on a narrow trail, we heard a loud growling noise coming from the bushes. We froze, and that's when we saw it. A large black bear was staring right at us, its eyes filled with hunger and aggression. We slowly backed away, trying not to make any sudden movements, but the bear started to charge at us. We ran for our lives, barely making it back to the safety of the cabin. After that terrifying encounter, we were on edge. We couldn't enjoy any of our activities, constantly looking over our shoulders and feeling like we were being watched. And then, on the fifth day, things took a turn for the worse. We woke up to find one of our friends missing. We searched the entire cabin, but he was nowhere to be found. We then remembered the strange figure we saw on the security footage, and we knew something was seriously wrong. We immediately called the police, and a search party was organized. We searched the woods for hours, calling out our friend's name, but there was no sign of him. As the sun started to set, we heard a faint cry for help coming from deep in the woods. We followed the voice and eventually found our friend, injured and terrified. He told us that he had been attacked by someone in the woods and managed to escape. We were all relieved and confused. Who could have done this to him? The police arrived, and we told them everything that had happened since we arrived at the cabin. They searched the area, but they found no evidence of anyone else being in the woods besides us. They told us that it was probably just a bear that had attacked our friend, but we all knew that wasn't the case. We had all seen the security footage, and we knew that there was someone else out there. We decided to cut our trip short and leave the cabin immediately. We packed our things and got ready to leave, but as we were loading our car, we saw him. The same figure from the security footage was standing at the edge of the woods, watching us. We froze, and he slowly started to walk towards us. We quickly got into the car and drove off, not looking back until we were miles away from that cursed cabin. To this day, we still can't explain what happened during that vacation. We never received any answers from the police, and we never went back to that cabin. It's a memory that still sends shivers down our spines. We all have our theories, but one thing is for sure, that vacation was the most terrifying experience of our lives. It's a horror story that we will never forget.